Hello and welcome to another video. Today's video is using this Love of Leaves bundle to make a card like this one. I might switch things up a little bit. I've tried a couple of things. First of all, the colors I'm using are Crushed Curry, Pumpkin Pie, Cajun Craze, and Merry Merlot. And notice I used all of them, and then I used the Crushed Curry as my kind of accent color here. But for my next card, I thought, let's switch up the colors, and I thought I'll use the Merry Merlot because it's one of those like deep purpley reds that I just really dig. So, and I also brought out, I've got on my stamp both the this leaf and that one, depending on which one I kind of want to go with. I thought I would keep things a little bit up to, sort of on the fly, and we'll see where that lands. So I'm going to put these away, and then this card, my original one, well, I say away, off to the side. My original one, I left the front empty, and you could absolutely make this kind of a blank card to send to anybody. But I used the stamp here, "I'm so glad you're in my life," to stamp that, and I did that in the Merry Merlot. And for this next card, I picked this stamp here, "Your friendship is something I know I can count on." So let's go ahead and start with this card. It's really easy to do, and you'd be surprised at how fast we can get this done. So first things first, here's what we're making. We need to stamp our our leaves. So we do need our Stampin' Pierce pad, our mat here, because we're using photopolymer stamps, and we absolutely need to be able to have that cushion underneath. So the one thing you'll need a few pieces of cardstock. The first is your card base, and I chose to make it kind of an upright portrait look, and so it needs to be 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2. Then I use here, notice like the layering piece. It'll be, the Merry Merlot will be 4 inches by 5 1/4. The extra piece of Very Vanilla will be 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so that's what you need there. And then this here is a strip that is 4 inches by 1/2 inch. So very easy to do. I also have a scrap here of my Very Vanilla so that I can use it to die cut one of these flowers. However, I also, because I thought I would do something kind of different, I cheated a little bit. So I actually already ran these through. I thought, maybe let's see what it looks like if I have a die cut flower out of cardstock instead of out of the Very Vanilla. So I'll obviously need to take a look of what that looks like. So see here, if I had that there, ooh, that's pretty cool. Although I probably would want to use the Merry Merlot with not that color behind it. That's what that looks like. Very cool. That's fun though, isn't it? So I might just save these then for another project and stay with the Very Vanilla. But notice here, this painter's tape is on there specifically to kind of keep the centers, which do this lovely stitching. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, look at that. That lovely stitching is done with these center pieces, but you don't have to have them. So if I wanted to stamp this and then die cut it out, I could just remove this piece and it would be perfectly fine. So, oh yeah, I should probably take all of these out so that I can use this as my mount. The other benefit of having die cut this out is that I can now use this piece, and then my leaves that I've already die cut, I can use on another project if I'm not going to use it on this one, without any kind of, whoever receives this lovely card will not necessarily know that it's missing 2 leaves worth of cardstock underneath. So that's something else to consider too if you want to do a bit of a cost-saving thing where you could use the innards for a different card. So that being said, let's leave this off to the side and we'll see. Maybe we'll play it by ear. I think in that case then, let's use the oak leaf here, and then we'll essentially have them a little bit different but a little bit similar. So I need my piece here, and we're going to do some stamping. Because we're going to stamp off the side here, and I don't want to get it onto my Pierce mat, I've just got this like scrap piece of computer paper So I'm just going to use that underneath. Normally I would have, oops, you can see I used it earlier for my other sample. Normally I would have like a clean piece of paper. I would put it underneath this, but I figured for today it'll just be easy to do this one. So a trick when you're going to be doing this, because you're going to actually need to clean the leaves in between each color. And the way to do that is, just in case you don't clean it great, you'll want to do it in increasing darkened colors. So you'll want to start with the yellow, move into the orange, to the Cajun Craze, to the Merry Merlot. So you will want to do that. And actually, I just realized I was making cards with my daughters and I left my my cleaning chamois on the table. Let me run and grab that very quickly, and then I'll show you how to stamp all of these in a beautiful arrangement. And I'm back. So now let's go ahead and get started. So open that up to have it handy, because we're going to need it. And because we're using this one, I can put this one off to the side, which means I can put my chamois here to be ready to use. So like I said, we want to start with our lightest color first, just in case we don't do a great job cleaning off our stamps. And that's, you know, not an impossibility when you're stamping. So you want to go ahead and tap these off. Because these are pretty detailed, you do want to make sure that your ink is a little bit pushed down so that it's not too juicy. And just like I think I've mentioned before, when it comes to stamping, the rule of thirds is great. You really want to try to do things in thirds. You don't have to have them absolutely perfect, but just something to consider. So I'm just going to do kind of hanging off the side. And notice, even though it probably would have been fine for some of them, so like notice here the line there on the ink, that's because half of it was on the card, the other half was not. So now I can just stamp that off a little bit, because I don't want to get too much ink on top of my chamois, because then that would make it really hard to clean off perfectly every time. So now I'm going to take this, close that up, use next my pumpkin pie. And let me move my crushed curry out of the way. So my pumpkin pie, when I last used it, let me show you here on my sample, it was a little too juicy for me. So I don't want to risk that again. So I'm going to use my bone folder and just kind of press the ink down just a little bit. So notice there that it's kind of being a little bit lighter there. And I just want to just gently press it down. Not so much that there's no ink on the top, but just enough where it's not going to be so heavy. And it might stain your bone folder a little bit. Just grab a tissue and wipe it down. You could definitely do that first and then go wash it under the sink afterwards. But just because it's stained doesn't mean it's not going to be useful. So that's not an issue. I've had this for years now. As you can tell, my logo's coming off. So now I've pushed that ink down a little bit because it was really, really dense earlier. So I'm going to see if that helps. And then let's do, and I do want them to overlap a little bit. I kind of liked that look. You know, the idea that it's like a pile of leaves on my card front, you know? I thought that was really cool. And then let's do like this. There we go. That's pretty cool. And that's much improved over the kind of splotchier color there. Oh, and then see, the thing about the stem, I was a little too rough. So make sure you're a little bit more gentle there. All right, moving on. Cajun Craze. Boop. All right. And just note that the redder your ink, the more likely it's going to stain your stamp. That is not to say that it's not going to function. It will still work perfectly well. It just means that it might leave like a residue on your actual stamp, which is fine. It still will work. It'll just, you know, show its love. Boop. There we go. There we go. Clean that off. And then finally, our Merry Merlot. And you can choose to do more, you can choose to do less. I am picking the leaves that are a little bit larger, but if you wanted to, you could have used these little ones and done lots of them, which could have looked really cool too. So now, Merry Merlot. Let's do a nice solid one right here. Oh yeah. Such a beautiful color. Let's do another one right here. And then I think this corner right here could use one too. And again, though, the perk about this is if you wanted to, this kind of design, I mean, I cut mine down, obviously, all ahead of time to make this card, but if I wanted to, I could have actually stamped these over an entire piece of paper and turned it essentially into like a one-sheet wonder type of a card, where I could have made this over an entire sheet and then cut it down and have lots of it really quickly available to like mass produce this design, which could be a really easy way to get a lot of these kinds of cards, especially if you want to send a more neutral fall card to family members for, say, Thanksgiving, or other just kind of I'm thinking of you during this particular holiday kind of a card, which I think, you know, could definitely be uplifting at this point. So look at that. See, and then so say for example you stamped it around and you're like, I don't know. You could flip it around if you wanted to. Like this looks to me a little bit more like they're falling, whereas this one looks kind of to me like you're looking down at the ground. I don't know if that's just me, but that's the vibe I'm getting. So I still kind of like them like this, and notice here, because we've eaten a little bit of that center, I'm going to use my Tombow and just kind of, I'm actually going to put it onto the cardstock instead of putting it on the this piece here of the Very Vanilla. I'm just going to put a little bit where it can make sure it has a good connection here. And if you're a little worried, you could definitely have just done a nice outline over here, or use the Stampin' Seal, which would have been a great choice too. And there we go. Look at that. So now just pat that down gently. And now, notice, boom, no one will ever know that you took out the innards. Plus, another bonus is that it makes it a little bit lighter in postage, which means that maybe it'll cost a little less if you're sending, you know, other things with the card. So I've already scored this at 5.5. So you'll just have to fold it down, and then with that same bone folder, oh, there it goes. And that same bone folder, just press it down. Something to note, if you haven't already kind of figured out while folding cards, if you're doing it this way, this is actually against the grain of the cardstock, which means it's going to give you a bit more resistance. So I highly recommend, if you're ever making a card this way, that you do make sure you at least add that fold line, that crease by the score tool or something ahead of time to make sure that that card's going to stay. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue that right on top, and then I can glue that strip across, and then we'll die cut out our leaf. Isn't that cool? I'll have to make a card with those leaves. Maybe I'll die cut lots of them of different colors. That could be fun. So there's that. And of course, if you're more of a popping it up kind of a person, you could have put a bunch of dimensionals behind this panel to pop it up. But I thought, since on mine I popped up the leaf, I didn't want too much bulk. So now we'll do the same with my strip. And I put mine in the middle. And see here, let's use this as like a placeholder. So notice, ooh, I wonder if we wanted to, could try a strip of a different color and still use this colored one. Ooh, let's try that. Let's look for maybe well, actually here I had like a baby strip from another card I cut down. I could just use this as an idea of the color. That's not bad. Let's try the Cajun Craze and the Crush Curry, because I always have those little 1/4-inch strips. Like, I feel like I always collect a bunch of them. Oh, here's, oh, nope, that's a little too short. Let's see. I think I've got, well, here, I can cut this one down to size. Yeah, okay, let's just use this real fat one here for now, just to kind of see. All right, that could be nice. Let's try pumpkin pie. So I've got I keep my paper in a filing cabinet next to me on within folders, in filing folders, and so I can just open them up, and each color has its own folder. Ooh, I kind of like that. I just have to trim that to kind of clean up the edge. That could be fun. And then let's do Cajun Craze just in case. There we go. I think Cajun Craze might be a little too close to the Merry Merlot to make it look really perfectly there. Yeah, I think that's a little too close. So, I don't know, I kind of like that pumpkin pie. Let's do that. So let's trim down that pumpkin pie just a hair. And actually, because it has a bit of a frayed edge here, rather than making it flush with this piece of the Merry Merlot, I'm actually going to make it flush with this piece of Very Vanilla, which was 3 3/4. So I just need to use my cutting board here. Let's go ahead. Need to make it 3 3/4 right there, and cut. And there we go. Put that off to the side. And now I can just glue that straight on like that and then pop that up right on top. I think that'll be lovely. Doop, doop, doop. Oh, see? Ha, I already had one right here. Ha, ha, ha. Okay. So I'm actually going to put this, I think I'm going to put this just a hair lower than center because I want to not hide this Merry Merlot leaf too much. Because I've got not a ton showing, so if I put that a little too high, you won't see very much of it. And then that way, it kind of accentuates that leaf. So let's go ahead, pop that one up. You could pop up the stem as well, but because of its kind of stiffness of the cardstock, I think it'll be okay on its own. If you really wanted to, because it's kind of thin, you could try to cut out these, like this little narrow bones section and put it there. I might do one of them. Let's see. Let's try it, and then worst case, we'll take it off. I use these like little sewing scissors for anything sticky. That way I don't get it on my nice paper snips. Eventually, once my original snips that I purchased get a little bit, you know, either gunky or a little dull before I get them resharpened or something, I'll probably eventually get them like move them on to be my sticky scissors, but for now they are working perfectly well, so I'm going to use them as such. So, oh yeah, see, look at that, that worked just fine, and you can't even see it on that side. If you have, and I do have these handy, I've got just like a leftovers here from the other day, but so like if you had the mini black dimensionals, you could totally use these on this too, especially if you're using a darker color. I think because on my sample I didn't use them, I didn't think to use them with this darker cardstock, but that would be a beautiful choice here. I'll make sure to link those below in case you don't have your hands on them. The variety pack of the black ones are great because it comes with both the large ones and the mini at the same time, so you don't actually have to buy like two separate items. You can just buy the one and have access to both at the same time. So there we go. That looks great. And now all I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment on the inside, and then we're done. So I had used the Merry Merlot to stamp that on the inside, and I think I will keep that up. It's such a lovely color. When Christmas time rolled around last year, it was absolutely my go-to color for the holidays. Like my go-to red. There we go. Beautiful. And if you really wanted to, I know what I'm going to do. Let's stamp my leaf here. I'm going to stamp off and then stamp maybe, oh, actually, let's see what that looks like. Here's what we're going to do. Ready? Look. Let's see how light that is. Oh, that is nice and light. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Because of the size of the sentiment, here's what we're going to do. Ready? Stamp, and then right on top. Look at that. And that is stunning. I might even go back and do that for this one here. That could be fun. I think I might do that right now. That way you add a little bit of that outside and you tie it back in to the inside, which is a lot of fun. And then what's extra nice about it is, especially people who don't get handmade cards very frequently, they'll see that, and that'll be what takes, you know, your card from just like, oh, that's nice, to something fantastic. There we go. Look, see, just subtle, but a little bit extra. Fantastic. So let me clear that off. if you liked these, you'll find all of what you need to make them listed below, as well as linked on my blog. So if you want to actually add any of these to your next order for Stampin' Up, you could. If you need a demonstrator, feel free to get in touch and I will happily help you with all of your Stampin' Up needs. If you wish to just subscribe so that way I can see your or I can see so that you can see the next types of projects that I make. I'm still intending on making a few more of these fall and holiday cards that are a bit more generic here, and then I'll be definitely moving on a little bit into more of the solid holidays. But like, for example, this month of November, my monthly card swap, the theme is animals, and that's actually a card that I'm planning now, and I'll probably record later this week so that way you'll still get a chance to see that, even though it won't necessarily be an animal that's like, it might not be like Christmas or Thanksgiving themed. It might just be animals. Maybe I'll make a baby card, or maybe I'll make like a kid's birthday card, right? So we'll see. Either way, if you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.